Today we're going to be talking about a game called Outcast: A New Beginning. It is the sequel to the original Outcast game. The original Outcast released somewhere around 1999. That game actually had a sequel that was planning to be made, and it was canceled because that company went bankrupt, unfortunately. The original Outcast was kind of a cult classic. It had pretty good reviews, somewhere in the 80s and 90s. Um, but it it just, I guess it didn't sell as well as it could, or maybe they had some sort of weird problems within that company. Not really sure what happened. Um, but Outcast: A New Beginning is that a lot of the same developers from back then coming back, making something new, making something interesting, and it should be pretty cool. It's if I had to describe it, it's kind of an action adventure game. So think something along the lines of your Horizon Zero Dawns, um, God of War, maybe a little bit. Although God of War is kind of a bit more spectacle than anything else. But yeah, it plays out kind of similar to something like Horizon Zero Dawn, where you have this open world. This is even more open, I would say. It's a bit more non-linear. So you're going around, you're doing different things, and it's it has a lot of really cool things. One of the first things that you'll notice is that, similar to Elix, you do have a jetpack. So a lot of the exploration is going to be involving you using that jetpack, getting around. You kind of hover along the ground, and you can move very quickly. And as you're doing that exploration, you will be upgrading that jetpack, being able to go higher, get into places you might not have been able to get before. Um, it's a really cool system. I think that is probably the thing that people are going to enjoy the most in Outcast: A New Beginning. Just using the jetpack, the way it feels, running around, gliding, doing all these different things. And it does have a lot of those open world sort of systems that you have probably come to expect at this point. Finding different points of interest, little puzzles and things like that. When I was going through the demo, I went through this thing where it was like, chase the light, and it kind of reminded me of Assassin's Creed games. But yeah, just going around and finding different things and finding new things that are pique your interest is going to be probably the meat of this game. And I think that's a really cool thing. I loved Elix. Elix and Elix 2 were some of the most interesting games in terms of exploration. They definitely had a lot of other problems, so I will say that. But I just liked the exploration that was in that game. I wished that other games would do it, and now it seems like Outcast: A New Beginning is doing that. Kind of interesting. They're under THQ Nordic, so maybe a little rubbing together of ideas, rubbing together of brain cells happened within those studios, perhaps. Um, so that is, I think that is a lot of what is going to be going on. I also tried the combat. So the combat is third-person shooter. So you're going to be using this little laser pistol that you have, and then getting more and more different weapons as you're going through. And you also have a skill tree system that you'll be using as well to expand the things that you're able to do. For example, the jetpack has its own skill tree where you can get more energy, which allows you to boost higher and move in different ways. So that is another thing that is in that game. Kind of similar to a lot of the PlayStation third-person action-adventure games, just a bit of a lower budget. And that's something that we do have to talk about a little bit. So this is not your massive AAA game budget. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99.9% sure about that. I don't really think it has that AAA budget, but for what it is, I think it looks great. It plays pretty well. Um, there were for me a little bit of optimization issues, and that's maybe due to my the system that I have. Uh, I don't have the top of the line 4090 graphics card or anything. I have kind of a mid tier graphics card in my computer. I was playing it on that. So I did notice that there were some FPS drops that were pretty large, even if you go and put it on. Actually, it works pretty well on the performance DLSS setting. But if you don't run it with that, it has big dips, and that's usually how you know the optimization might not be perfect within the game yet. And maybe that's something that they'll fix leading up to the release, hopefully, for my sake especially. But other people that are probably in my category where you just have like a mid-tier graphics card, that's just something to mention, something to think about when you're looking to get this game. But for the most part, it looks great. It runs pretty well. The only place that I really had issues was the densely populated areas. That wasn't as much. But it's still above 30 FPS for sure. So it's not going to be dragging you down into the very low levels of FPS, chugging along, getting 2 frames per second or anything like that. So yeah, the world itself, completely open world, no boundaries. You can discover random things, temples, little dungeons, wildlife that will definitely attack you and try to kill you. But it has a lot of cool little things. It has this shield that you can use. So that is one of the things that you can use during combat. It has obviously you can use the jetpack during combat as well. And just I think the combination of movement and all these different tools that you're able to use elevates the combat to a place where it's actually really cool. I think this will probably be maybe not a critical darling, but definitely more of a cult classic sort of thing. Which makes sense, because that's where Outcast kind of came from. So that's the feeling I've got from it. I think it'll occupy that space, that sort of double A space that we don't see as much anymore. Where it's just a fun game. It's just fun to play. The combat actually feels a lot better than I thought it would. It does have a story as well, so it's not completely bereft of story. It's just non-linear. So you'll be tackling that at your own pace and going through it out at your own pace. And so far, the things I've seen with the story, it's interesting. It's like discovering this whole different planet with these alien creatures. I didn't play the original Outcast, so there might be a lot of stuff that I don't know that a lot of people who did play that will know. Just random details about the world and descriptions and term usage. But the cool thing is that they give you this ability while you're talking to people. You can press the shift key or whatever it might be on controller. It pops up the certain words and what those words mean. So you're not going to be completely just blind and confused the entire time if you never played the original game. I think that's a really cool thing. But yeah, that is Outcast, A New Beginning. Seems like a cool game. Seems like it has a good amount of potential. I could also not go so well, but I think from what I've seen so far, the demo and everything like that, it played pretty well. I think it'll at least do decently well. I don't think it'll completely crash and burn, because it's not like it was bad at all. I didn't see anything that made me think that. And maybe by the end of the game I would disagree with that statement, but for now, I think it was fun. I think it's something that's worth looking into. If you enjoy these open world exploration games that are non-linear, definitely give it a look. If you played something like Horizon Zero Dawn, it kind of has a similar feel to that. So maybe you'll enjoy it. Just keep in mind, it's not like the massive triple A thing. It's more of a like a double A budget. So there'll be a little bit of jank, but hopefully not too much. Right, that is it. Outcast: A New Beginning. It is coming out, I think, mid March, like March 15th. So give it a look.